Hi everyone, it's Pablo, one of your LSE student content creators, and in this video, I'll be sharing how assessments are done at LSE. As I am filming this vlog, the holiday break is coming to a close and I'm just about to start my second term at LSE. Over the break, one of the most important things I had to do was to submit my assessments for the first term. So coming right out of that experience, I thought it would be really helpful and interesting to share with you how assessments work at LSE, my own experience working on my assessments, including things I've learned and realized as I completed them. And also, I'll be sharing some tips and hints that I think will be really useful to keep in mind. Now let's begin with how do assessments work at LSE. With assessments, there are two keywords that you need to learn: formatives and summatives. A formative assignment is something that you would do in the middle of the term, and a summative assignment is something that you would need to complete at the end of the term. It's really interesting to note that formatives actually do not count towards your overall degree classification, and that's just a more formal term of saying your final marks. However, it is important to see the formative assignment as preparation towards your summatives. The formative assignments can be essays, presentations, mock exams, or any other type of submitted work, and although they do not count towards your final marks, they will prepare you for your summative assignments. And based off of how I've described the formative assignments, I'm sure you can guess that the summatives do count towards your degree. Usually they are either exams or essays. Sometimes they can be a combination of things. For example, you might have to do a presentation that counts towards, say, 20% of your final grade, and the 80% would come out of a final essay that you need to submit. And again, this happens at the end of the term upon completion of your course. When you are selecting your courses to take at LSE, information on what the formative and summative assignment would be is listed on the course information. So you will be aware of that before you even start taking the course. So now I'll be sharing with you my experience working on my own assessments. For my first term, I did 3 courses, so I had to work on 3 formative assignments midterm. I just submitted 2 of my summative assignments, and I have 1 more to work on in the middle of the second term. I know I said summative assignments are typically done at the end of the first term before going into the second, but for this course specifically, it does run till the middle of the second term. So that is a little bit of a difference for this class in particular. But speaking to the assignments that I've already completed, for the formatives, I had to work on 2 1,500-word essays, and for the third course, which is a little bit different, I worked on a take-home assessment where I had to write an essay within a 24-hour period. And for the summative assignments that I've already submitted, I had to work on extending the 1,500 formative essays that I've already done into 3,000-word essays. Being my very first term at LSE and never having done a graduate studies program before, I felt very nervous and unsure while I was working on my essays. I was definitely questioning myself if the work I was producing was at a master's level per LSE standards. It can definitely be really stressful and nerve-wracking at first, but after completing my assignments and going through the whole experience, I learned and realized that it is not as scary and stressful as I initially made it out to be. I'll be completely honest and say that it is definitely a challenge, but it is also very possible to equip yourself so you will be ready and prepared. So now I'll be sharing with you my tips and advice for working on assessments at LSE. My first tip is to do the work throughout the course and before the assessment period. Since the summative is the only assessment that is marked and counts towards your final grade, it will be tempting to slack off and not do some of the work throughout the course. A big difference when I'm comparing my master's studies to my undergraduate program is that there aren't really any graded checks in place before you get to your final assignment. And I know that if something is not marked or graded, students might not feel as motivated to perform at their best. So just as I mentioned earlier, it's really important to think of the formative assignment and any other coursework you're doing in between as preparation towards your summative. So I've learned that it's really important to do your readings, attend your lectures, participate in your seminars and discussions, to schedule office hours to meet with your professors, and even to talk with your peers. There are also additional resources that you can make use of at LSE, such as the library and LSE Live training. For example, I've been attending a weekly academic writing class to help me improve my essay writing skills. Do not be afraid to ask for help throughout your studies, and most importantly, be proactive with your learning. My second tip is in relation to this, and that is to actually do and submit your formatives. Because the formative assignments do not count towards your overall degree, not submitting them actually does not affect your marks. So again, once you've hit the middle of the term, and it does get quite busy and overwhelming, it is tempting to decide not to do your formative assignments. But you have to be aware that this would be your only chance to get formal feedback before you get to your summative assignments. Although the formative marks do not count towards your overall degree, they will be marked just as your summatives will be, and that is through your program or department specific rubric. You will also be receiving really helpful comments from either your professors or teaching assistants, and they will help you see if you are on the right track or if there's any improvements that you need to make. Think of your formative assignments as practice towards your summatives, and this was especially true in my case. For example, for my gender research module, I had to come up with a 1500 research proposal for my formative assignment, and for the summative, I basically had to work on the same proposal except longer, 3000 words, and obviously I had to improve on what I've submitted on the formative and add on more components to my research proposal. This may not be true for every course that the summative assignment is essentially a longer version of the formative you've just submitted, but still think of the formatives as essential practice and the only way that you're going to get feedback before you get to your summatives. Also, really great advice that I received on choosing what to work on for your formatives and summatives is to pick a topic that you are really interested about. This definitely will motivate you when you are working on your assignments. My next tip would be to give yourself enough time to complete your assessments. Speaking in the context of the first term, my formative assignments were due during the reading break. I did talk a little bit about this on my Reading Week vlog about my solo travel to Bath, which you can check out on the LSE YouTube channel. Basically, for my formative assignments, I had to make sure that I would have enough time to work on them because I also wanted to do a little bit of traveling during the reading week. It's pretty much the same situation for the summative assignments that I've just completed. The only difference is that the holiday breaks are a lot longer, it's a little over a month, and the holiday season does get hectic and busy for a lot of us. So when thinking about when to do our assignment, it's definitely important to find enough time to complete them and to schedule them out during your breaks. And my final piece of advice before you hit on that submit button is to make sure that you've followed all the guidelines for your assessment. This includes understanding what the assessment is and what it requires. You also need to be very aware of your submission guidelines. Like for formatting, did you get the spacing and the font right? Do you have your page numbers in? Did you label it with the right file name? And of course, did you cite all your sources correctly? Two very important parts of the submission guidelines would be the word count and the deadline, because points will definitely be deducted if you do not follow these correctly. Of course, for your assessments, do not plagiarize and give yourself enough time to make sure that you followed all these guidelines. I know that was quite a bit of information, and assessments are just one of those things that students definitely struggle with or are challenged by, but as I said, it doesn't have to be as stressful or scary or as difficult as you think it is. I hope this video was able to highlight a lot of the important things to think about when you are doing assessments. And the final thing I wanted to say in this video is that you came to LSE to study something that you are interested about, so use your assessments as a chance to show why you're at LSE and to show how you've applied your learning to what you are passionate about. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Till the next video.